From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. We'll get to Jeffrey Wright here in a bit on the show. Fully affecting the summer right now. We do have the NBA draft coming up. Got a former Ole Miss player into a little more legal trouble as well. We'll cover those things as well as much more. And we talked to Jeffrey. We'll cover some lines for the season. We talked about season win totals and different things with him last week. He sent me something last night. We're going to go over some lines today. So we'll get to that here in a bit on the Oxford Exxon Podcast, brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon. You know, to go in, you know, to get the ribs at night, you know, to get the lunch specials during the day. You get the clean convenience store, good gas prices, Speed Pass Plus out, mobile rewards program, daiquiris, and much more. You find all that there on Highway 6 West and up and down I-55 and throughout Mississippi with Critical and Blue Sky locations. Again, that's the Oxford Exxon. And coming to you one more time from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. It's the number that you call. You ask for our friend Corey Clark. You tell Corey what Ford you're looking for. And he'll have a quote to you within 15 minutes in business hours. 15 minutes in business hours, not 15 hours in business minutes. That would make no sense. So you get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop it around. You can let it be a baseline for you as you move forward. That's cool. Or you can go ahead and do what I've done 3 times now, what a lot of people who listen to this podcast have done, and that's get into a Ford vehicle from Clark Ford. Corey wants to be your truck guy. He wants to be your car guy. I've had people say, what does that mean? Call the number, talk to Corey. You'll start to find out. They'll make things happen for you. Delivery options, great service. They'll take care of you long after you have driven off of the dealership lot. 662-257-1900 is the number. Tell Corey you heard about Clark Ford on this here Potato Log podcast, and you'll save $500 off your bottom line.
So, news yesterday, there's not really much else going on. I don't know. Is there anything Ole Miss related today at all?
Is there anything Ole Miss related?
Like actual, current athletes, campus, that kind of thing. Is there anything? Basketball has a visitor, right?
Yeah, he was there yesterday.
Okay, who is that?
The kid from Alabama. Oh, man, 6'8". 225. His name's escaping me right now. I'm sorry. I'm in football recruiting mode these days. I'll have to look it up in a minute. He's got a kind of a funky name. Really, really good player. Might be one of those deals where Ole Miss benefits from Auburn's tremendous success. Auburn went to the Final Four, and they are recruiting at a super high level right now, and it might create an opening for Ole Miss to get a top 50 player. And yes, Auburn's recruiting that well.
Okay. Let's see. Rongi Gordon.
Rongi. I wanted to say Rodney.
Rongi. I'm assuming that's correct. Rongie.
Yeah, I think it's Rongi.
Okay.
Rongi, whatever. Hell of a good player. Big body, college ready.
Out of Alabama, Montgomery.
Yeah. Auburn's the threat there, but there's a chance that Auburn probably won't have room.
And that's okay. If it works out, right?
Listen, in football, they're benefiting in the state of Alabama from Alabama recruiting nationally. Sometimes you just have to take the breaks where they come. It's not an insult. Auburn went to the Final Four. Bruce Pearl's hot right now.
Gordon has his main 5 schools per Rivals.com: Alabama, Florida, Georgia Tech, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Also has an A&M offer as well.
Oh, he has lots of offers.
Yeah,
lots of offers. I like Ole Miss's chances. I mean, it's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, and Ole Miss is going to get good news tonight. I think Ole Miss is going to see a player get drafted tonight.
Who's the last player drafted? Tarico?
I think so. right? That's who. That Marshall wasn't drafted.
No. So what has caused TD's emergence? What's sort of happened here to make this such a likelihood tonight?
Well, it's a number of things. He had a really good season. It's the one thing, and I've talked to people that are around that program. It's the one thing that is a storyline that going into next season is underplayed. Look, I think they're going to be fine, but replacing Terence Davis is going to be more difficult and more problematic than people let on. Terence Davis over the last couple of seasons, 3 seasons, he made a lot of buckets at Ole Miss. He made a lot of plays at Ole Miss. He's a great kid. He's accountable. He works hard. He's athletic, extremely athletic, in a league where athleticism is absolutely required. He's got it. When he locks in defensively, and that's hard. Listen, it's easy for people to sit back and go, well, you should be locked in defensively all the time. No, it's difficult even for high level pros when their shots aren't falling. It's hard to get locked in on defense. It's hard to be, hey, I'm going to be a defense first kind of a player. Terrence's opportunity is as sort of a 3-and-D guy, is what they call him in the NBA, a guy who can knock down perimeter shots, who can come in, whether it's off the bench, in all likelihood off the bench for a guy like Terence, and lock in on an opposing, in his case, point guard or 2 guard, really get locked in 15, 16, 17 minutes a night, and kind of derail an offense a little bit. Play with the second unit. Be an effective defender with the second unit. It's the people who don't watch a lot of NBA don't understand 2 things. One, defense is absolutely king in that league. You win with defense. And then 2, you have to have a second unit that can produce. Because otherwise you run your first unit into the ground. And the season is so long, 82 games, a lot of travel, a lot of back-to-backs. If you don't have a quality second unit, it's really, really hard to win in that league unless you're the Warriors, for example. Toronto just won a title really around depth. And so that's what's happened. He had a great offseason where he has shot the ball very well. He's gotten locked in on defense. And I think people see a guy that is still developing. His best basketball's in front of him. And they see a guy that will put in the work. And they probably look at him and view him as with a second round pick, maybe end of the roster, rookie minimum, 2-way guy. 2-way meaning kind of doing the shuttle. Let's say he's with Memphis. He's shuttling between the Grizzlies and the what's the name? The Hustle. He's in Oklahoma City. He's shuttling between the Thunder and the Blue, where you're getting minutes with the Blue, big minutes, and then you're available off the end of a bench in say Oklahoma City in the event that you had a couple injuries and you needed someone to come in and round out a second unit for a little while. And then I think he could grow into that role. And the way that the NBA salary caps work, you've got to have some cheap options at the end of your bench. And I think Terence has put himself in a position to not only get drafted tonight, somewhere in the middle of the second round probably, but he's going to have an opportunity to make a team.
Yeah, that was where I was going with my next question, is just the mechanics of it. So they have, essentially they can just toggle those players back and forth between the G League and the NBA nonstop. Once he is drafted, he's guaranteed something. Is that correct? Even if it is this G League spot and rookie minimums and whatnot. I'm an idiot, so if I am, there's probably more of us out here too. Like, how does this exactly work mechanically?
First round guys are guaranteed contracts.
Okay.
Second-year guys are not guaranteed contracts, but he'll negotiate what will probably be a 2-way deal, which is just that. It's he'll where he shuttles back and forth between, his if he's a Warrior, for example, I think their team is in San Jose. I get it. But that's unlimited. They can just move them and go and whatever. Yeah, because he's on that contract, and then now he accrues service time. When he's with the NBA, but he has to be on the actual NBA roster to accrue the service time. So he'll shuttle on and off of a roster. for a little while if what I think is going to happen happens. And then if he plays well enough at the G League and begins to accumulate value within the organization, he becomes a very attractive option at the end of a roster for a team. I'm just going to take the Thunder again because I've been listening to a couple of Thunder podcasts. I'm familiar with some of their salary cap woes. They really need a couple of guys at the end of their roster making relative peanuts as it pertains to NBA dollars to round out their roster. And so a guy like Terence, he makes some sense, especially if he's willing to accept that role. And that's where he's a really good kid, and that's where that helps him. He's not going to be the guy that walks into a locker room and rocks the boat. He's going to be a guy that accepts a role and works hard, and there are some tools there. Now, ideally he's 6'6", but he's not 6'6". Ideally he's a little better shooter, but that's something you can work on, and he has gotten much better about it. And ideally you are probably a little better instinctively with basketball, but that can come if you're willing to be taught, and he has been. If you're willing to learn and listen to new voices, and he has been, a lot of those things can develop over time. And at the NBA level, you're asking on the defensive end, get locked in for 24 seconds. And I think he can do it. I mean, like I said, there are some limitations to his game. He's not going to be an NBA superstar. I saw a comparison the other day that I thought, that's interesting. And it was Tony Allen, who at his prime was a really, really good defender with the Memphis Grizzlies. And similar size. Terrence is big. He's strong. He's going to continue to grow into that body. There's some, and Tony Allen was really challenged offensively as an NBA player. Terrence might have a higher upside offensively than Tony Allen. I'm not sure he can be the defender that TA was, but I can see it. He's got to get the right fit. He doesn't fit on just any team. It's got to be the right kind of fit, but I think he's got a chance, and I think he'll get drafted tonight. And for those of us who have covered him and sort of had conversations with him, I think a lot of us are pretty excited for him. I'm really happy for him if it happens tonight, where I think he's going to go somewhere between 40 and 45 in the draft. I think it's a remarkable accomplishment when you think about just how raw he was when Andy Kennedy and those guys signed him, when he got to Ole Miss, when he was just coming off the bench as a freshman and playing just a few minutes. And you look at where his game has gone. A lot of credit goes to Andy, a lot of credit goes to Kermit Davis, and a lot of credit goes to TD.
It's obviously, it's a step. It's not a lottery pick, but it's a very important step. What's it just mean for Ole Miss just to have somebody's name called no matter where it is tonight?
Means a lot, man. I mean, come on. You cover baseball a lot. We both cover football. You need to put players in the league. You need to put players in the league. Kids want the high-level kids. You know this with baseball kids. What are high-level kids thinking about? What is the best way for me to get to the major leagues? The high-level kid. What is the best way for me to get to the major leagues? The high-level football prospect. What is the best path for me to get to the NFL? Why are kids going to Alabama in spades? Everybody can go ahead and make your joke now. Everybody gets a dodge. I get it. Everybody cheats. Why are they going to Alabama in spades? Nick Saban's personality? The charms of Tuscaloosa? I'd guess not. I'd guess it's because every single season there's a handful of guys, 4 or 5 guys that are 3-year players that are getting first and second round draft choice money. They want to go to the league. And Alabama has proven, to its credit, that they will put players in the league. And so in basketball, the same thing holds. High-level kids want to see that you can get from fill in the blank to the NBA. That's the next big step for Ole Miss. It was the step that Andy never could take. And it's like you said, it's not the big step. It's not a lottery pick. But it's a step. It's proof that you can play at Ole Miss and get to the NBA. And so it makes it much easier for a Sean Robinson. It makes it much easier for a Jamin Brakefield, for Rajni
Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon. It makes it much easier for those kind of people to go, yeah, I can go there. Because right now, when they watch the NBA, they don't see Ole Miss players. And these kids, the high-level kids, newsflash, they watch a ton of NBA. They play NBA 2K. They watch NBA. They have their own little player on NBA 2K that they run through. They watch a lot more NBA than they watch college basketball. It's not even close.
Whole draft televised?
Yeah, the whole thing.
All right. Just again, checking.
Zion Williamson will go 1.
John Morant will go 2.
John Morant will go 2. It appears that R.J. Barrett will go 3 to New York, and then the theatrics shall begin. Because after that, anybody's guess.
Yeah, they have a second pick, and you got to figure out what to do with it.
The Lakers have the second pick. It belongs to New Orleans. As of now, the Lakers will be drafting for New Orleans, but there's a real chance that New Orleans is going to trade that pick back somewhere, and the Lakers will be drafting for maybe Atlanta or someone. And there's a real chance that a lot of guys move tonight. Bradley Beal could move tonight. Joe Harris could move tonight. Dennis Schroeder, Steven Adams, Zach LaVine. There's a lot of guys that could move tonight. The NBA typically is really good about, much like the NFL is, really good about draft theatrics and off-season theatrics, and I expect there will be some drama tonight.
Channel for this tonight?
I think it's either ESPN or like TNT. I'm not sure. Could wake Carson up and find out. God knows he knows.
He'd have a hunch.
He'd have more than a hunch. Al Horford could move tonight.
Starts at 6 o'clock from a coverage standpoint tonight.
Aaron Baines could move tonight. We could find out a lot about what Kyrie Irving's going to do tonight.
If a video pops up, I'll apologize. I was just looking for a little more information on it, and I don't know what's in this box.
The one thing I love is all the different players just tweeting eyeballs. Feels like I'm following college football recruiting coverage.
ESPN has the official broadcast tonight.
ESPN.
Yeah. Yeah. Pelicans, Grizzlies, Knicks, Pelicans, as of now. Cavs, Suns, Bulls, Hawks, Wizards, Hawks. So there is your schedule. We'll talk Jeffrey in 1 minute. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Mastercut's Lawn and Landscape. You know, they have premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi. You know, they offer a lot more as well. Mastercuts will build your custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces, paver patios, forestry mulching, and much more. The path to your dream backyard easier than you think with Mastercuts. That's GoMastercuts.com for a free quote or 662-607-7773. Again, GoMastercuts.com.
You don't want to miss 1 minute of the action at the Vaught this season as Ole Miss football arrives this September. Reserve your season tickets with the new 2019 season ticket pricing for just $299. For more information, visit OleMissTix.com. The podcast also brought to you by 7 South Tailgating. Speaking of Ole Miss football, you want to get your tailgating plans ready to go. 7 South Tailgating offers packages for any budget, any party size, any number of games needed. Whether you're coming to one game, all 7, or somewhere in between, they can build a tailgating package to suit your needs and your budget. If you prefer to use your own personal tailgating gear, they'll store, maintain, clean, and repair that gear as needed throughout the season. If you prefer to rent some or all gear from 7 South, they offer many colors, types, and sizes to choose from. Call or go online today for a detailed quote customized to your specific needs. It's 662-321-1682 or visit 7southtailgating.com. Speaking of football season, I know many of you probably are worried that you won't be able to get fitted for your pair of Blue Delta jeans until football season rolls back around, but that's not true. Don't fret. The guys from Blue Delta travel the country doing trunk shows, fitting sports teams, doing golf tournaments, that kind of stuff. They were in New Orleans earlier this week. They've been in New York, Chicago, Orlando, Nashville. They've been Jackson, Birmingham. They've been everywhere. So if you want them to host a private trunk show in your city, go to @BlueDeltaJeans on both Instagram, Twitter. Send them a direct message or send them an email, info@BlueDeltaJeans.com, and one of their Blue Delta stylists will reach out to you with details. The podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB is locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. They also have a commercial checking account now paying 1% interest as long as you keep $10,000 in the account. It comes with fully interactive online banking. To learn more, go to liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
Now here's Jeffrey Wright on the Patterson-Earhart hotline. Jeffrey, good morning. You sent some lines as of right now to a group message we were in last night from the Action Network, which does a lot of really good stuff other than having Darren Ravel on its staff. But looking at what the line would be if the games were today, do I have that right? Am I missing anything before I kind of go through some of these numbers for the Rebels?
Yes. The one factor that you're not including is, so it's like when sportsbooks put out a line, it's like any other kind of business proposition. They factor in risk based upon, essentially they're trying to not lose their neck. So some of these lines would be a little off, and that's why, like, for instance, it was, I even put that in the tweet. I even specified this does not factor in risk. It is like any other projection in the world. People would factor in risk to give themselves a buffer. And of course, immediately, the line for the Memphis game's wrong. It's just like, I freaking said it. Like, I was hopeful that people
that's
could
your
read.
fault.
I know. And that's part of the problem. I'm embarrassed, Neil. I'm embarrassed. Why did I even do that? You're right. I know.
Expect people to take context into something. It's not going to happen. There's no chance. You have to quit. You have to quit expecting the best in people, Jeffrey. It's time to acknowledge that people are idiots.
Well, it's not so much that, because I did that long ago, myself included. It's the fact that at first I wrote it as one paragraph, and then I was like, you know what? I want to separate this so it is clear that your eye is drawn to. Please note, let me make sure how I wrote it. Please note, these numbers don't factor in risk for books, which can impact final lines.
TLDR.
Yeah, that's a good point. Twitter, when we've officially got to the point where Twitter's too long, didn't read, like, that's just a sad look.
It went from 140 to 280, and we went, I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, screw it. Like, too rich for my blood.
My cerebellum can't quite handle that.
Like, you basically, if you have a complex sentence, if there is a conjunction in that sentence, that first half of the sentence better be really freaking funny. Otherwise, we're out.
All right, so I interrupted the hell out of you. I'm sorry.
No.
Well, explain for people that don't understand books and stuff, the sports books, I should say, as well as you do. What do you mean by risk for the bookie?
So, essentially, what risk would be is the amount of money, perhaps, that would come in on one side versus the other. It's like any business projection that you would see in the world. Like, you factor in probability, you factor in potential outcomes, and that changes what the final line is.
We'll give one away right here to explain it. So Memphis, in most books that give futures right now, is about a 6 or 7 point favorite against Ole Miss. That's what you can go to the sports books and bet. Well, the Action Network is saying, hey, we're not worried about risk. We're just saying if we're just picking the game, what would the line be? And they've got it here listed, Ole Miss's opener. Ole Miss is a 14.8 point underdog to Memphis on this line. Ooh. And their point is, when they're actually making the line, we're going to make it closer because at this line, we understand that public perception would put all the money on Ole Miss, and if Ole Miss covers, we're screwed. So let's lower that line to a spot that's going to get more 50-50 bets.
Because
Correct.
if you're out there, you can get 15 points. I mean, if you offer me Ole Miss plus 15.
Right, we're all taking it.
That's my point. Nobody's picking Memphis, so they're saying this is what we think, but we're going to lower that line to lower our risk when the time comes.
Exactly.
Correct. And also it factors in we understand that, because a lot of these ratings are all done on offensive explosion numbers, defensive explosion numbers, like all this. They understand that it's not always going to be an apples to apples comparison. And so they factor in that, and that is why you see the line being a little bit lower.
So the interesting thing to me is just based on this, like I said, their calculations, they have no bias in this, I don't guess. I mean, I would be stunned if there was.
They hate Ole Miss.
Yeah, okay. Well, we all talk about the path, and we've discussed it 1,000 times. We talked about it last week, that Ole Miss, to get to 6 wins, you got to win. You got to win the 2 gimmies. You got to beat Memphis. You got to beat Arkansas. You got to beat Cal, and you got to beat Vanderbilt, most likely. And then, if you're getting higher, whatever. So you got to win all the coin flips. That's what's amazing about this, is just how low the ceiling potentially is, and how really that is the path. There's this one path to making this work on paper, because Ole Miss is going to be favored per this in 3 games this season, and they have another coin toss. And we'll go through the games in a second. But when you're talking about that, that's talking about winning a couple upsets, winning every one of those coin flips, and just having everything go right. And that's what's fascinating about this, if there is a path to bowl eligibility.
Yeah, I want to double check. Yeah, because even if you win, say you win every game in which you're favored, or it's a single digit dog, that's Arkansas, CeeLaw, Cal, Vandy,
and New Mexico State.
New Mexico State. That's still only 5, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
So you're looking at coming into the season to get bowl eligible, you have to win the 3 games in which you're favored, the 1 game in which you'd be a touchdown underdog at home against Cal, which I don't think is unreasonable. By the way, none of these are unreasonable. But that means you basically have to, and then you got to win your coin flip against Vandy, and then you would have to beat someone that you're going to be a double-digit dog against.
Yeah, at least per this right now. And that's kind of the point. I was going through this. Number one, this site must really hate Arkansas, because we mentioned it, Memphis minus 14.88, and then Arkansas, they have Ole Miss a 5.1 point favorite against Arkansas in the home opener.
Yes, Arkansas, I believe. Let's see, I included them as well because we have a pretty good Arkansas contingency that listens to the station.
Woo pig.
Woo pig, baby. They're favored in 2 games. They don't even have a toss-up, so they would be favored against. Well, and again, keep in mind there are not lines for FCS games.
Yeah.
So they open with Portland State, and then they'd be yeah. That's hey. Let me tell you what. The Pac Northwest doesn't have anything on Northwest Arkansas.
Oh, no, buddy.
So then, of course, they go to Ole Miss, where they're a 5-point dog right now, or whatever. They be a 5, roughly on this metric. Colorado State, San Jose State, and then they would not be favored the rest of the season.
Well, as someone who bought an Arkansas season ticket, and I basically did for my daughter on.
I was say a student. That sounds like someone that just bought a student ticket.
I resent the Sports Action Network right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I mean, as Chase pointed out, how do you trust a network that actively went out and sought to add Darren Vell to his roster and pays him in good faith?
It's a fair question on Parham's part. It really is.
I'm just saying. So Arkansas 5.1.
I misspoke.
Yeah.
Western Kentucky coming in late.
Okay.
Oh, we're gonna kick that ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, coming in hot late.
CeeLaw is a win. Are we surprised by Cal plus 6?
I'm surprised at the metric. I'm surprised that that they like Cal that much, but then when I think about it, no, I'm really not, because Cal. While you can easily convince me that Ole Miss wins that game, because Pac-12 teams going east don't have a ton of success, particularly considering that it's going to be very hot and humid that day if you're an Ole Miss fan, or at least you're hoping that it is. But no, it doesn't surprise me at all, because really what this suggests is Ole Miss does not have talent coming back.
So yes, there's so many spots where it could go either way. I think that's a fair thing. Bama minus 34, who cares? Whatever. Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, an underdog by 0.130, so a coin flip, if you will. And Vanderbilt, Ole Miss has been a coin flip, so whatever, have at it.
That's the one that surprised me a little bit. It tells you just how, I guess, skeptical the computers are of Ole Miss, because Vanderbilt loses a lot. They weren't particularly good, but, you know, the games in Oxford, that's become a game where the home team wins. I would have thought Ole Miss would have been a little bit more of a favorite in that one. That was the one that I looked at. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, to me, like, the biggest takeaway, and I had this takeaway when the Memphis line came out, and I remember either texting or talking to both of you. Like, when the Memphis line came out, I said, I'm not saying this means they're right, but when that line came out, I go, Vegas does not like Ole Miss this year coming into the season. And that, to me, I started doing more and more research, because I'm getting more and more bored, because there's less and less on TV, and you can only watch so many Paul Goldschmidt game-winning home runs to knock off the Marlins. Suck it, Miami. So this is what you wind up doing instead.
Does the book, and you don't have this in front of me, the site, should I keep calling it a book? Do they like Missouri? Because this surprised me a little bit just on the size of this line compared to all the other lines on this page I'm going to read. And, you know, by the way, Ole Miss needs at least 4 and probably maybe 5 wins in those games we just mentioned because of what's coming here. Missouri, Ole Miss plus 18.3 in Columbia.
They do like Missouri. They like Missouri a lot, so it's not Neal. I don't know if that's reassuring or not, but Neal, who was sneaky high on Missouri coming into the year all year, you're not alone.
No, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who kind of know that program. I'm not referring to Gabe. I'm talking about college football people who are around the sport, who are in the sport. They tell you that the fall off from Drew Lock to Kelly Bryant is not going to be as precipitous as some people think it's going to be, and that everywhere else Missouri's going to be better. Everywhere else on the field, they're going to be better.
Chase, according to their rankings, they have Missouri coming in at 12, so they are literally right behind State.
Take a break in our talk with Jeffrey to tell you about G&M Pharmacy and Tyson Drugs. G&M there on South Lamar in Oxford. Tyson's there in Holly Springs. And you know that they deliver local in that area to your home or workplace. You can call them. You can find out more at 662-236-2222. They've got MedSync, which makes sure they fill all your prescriptions on the same day every month. It keeps you on schedule. Keeps everything easy, convenient for you there with those two places. So find out more, 662-236-2222. Ask them about all the CBD products that they have available as well. You know they're FDA approved, no crazy side effects. Just make you feel better for a number of different things that could be going on with you. So again, Tyson Drugs, G&M on South Lamar, 662-236-2222.
Jeffrey Wright and all other guests join us on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Patterson and Earhart, attorneys at law. They specialize in personal injury law, real estate law, but theirs is a general practice that really can handle any of your legal needs. If you think you have a legal issue, if there's just something that you want to talk about, that you want to get an idea of whether or not you should pursue it, whatever the case may be, take advantage of being a podcast listener. Get in touch with John Calvin Patterson or Wes Earhart. They're Ole Miss guys. They're local guys. When you call them, you're going to get one of them on the phone within the same day, guaranteed. 662-526-1992, or check out their website, pelaws.com. Again, that initial consultation is absolutely free. Podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi. They represent clients in more than 20 states. They have advisors in 3 states. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, what they do is they sit down with you, they look at your expenses, they talk about your goals, your dreams, and then they put put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan that is built just for you. It's PinnTrust.com, PINN Trust.com. Mention that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. Podcast also brought to you by Weston Jackson. They are the sponsor of my mailbag, which was published last evening, fairly 7-ish. So it's been up for a little while. You can check it out. It is brought to you by the Weston Jackson. It's a Marriott property there in downtown Jackson. It's also home to Soul Spa, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. And it's home to Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, where you should go tonight, sip on a creative craft cocktail, enjoy their curated wine list, and also enjoy the varied and very delicious offerings from Chef Caden there at Estelle at the Westin Jackson tonight. And we're brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. You guys know how this works. You call John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. You give John some parameters. You give him a budget. He'll give you travel options that you will not find on your own. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387. J. Edwards at regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save first $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see.
More on that in a minute.
Yeah. Moving on, Texas A&M. This is back in Oxford. Ole Miss had some success with the Aggies over the course of their tenure in the SEC. A&M minus 12.3.
Yeah, I think I've talked myself into believing that A&M's the second best team in the West, but God, when you look at A&M's schedule, that kind of spooks you a little bit.
Yeah,
but I just think there's a good contingency. I don't know if it's a majority or not. I do think there's a really a strong contingency of Ole Miss people that are straight up in denial with how little talent they have. And it's a fascinating debate because on the one hand, I do not think you could possibly upgrade realistically any more than you did at the coordinator positions, as they've done, getting both McIntyre and Rodriguez. But on the flip side, like, you only won 5 games with that much NFL talent last year. Like, I just don't know. I'm not convinced coaching is going to be the difference in SEC football games when the talent level is going to be that big, where the talent disparity is going to be that big.
The next week, Ole Miss facing Auburn on the road. Tigers by 16.2 early.
Good news for Ole Miss is they got that game moved later in the year. So if things go off the rails for Auburn, that you play them later in the year and maybe they've quit. Like, who does it better? Who throws in the towel and just does that no-show better? When LSU quits on a coach or when Auburn quits on a coach?
Ooh, it's a good question. LSU's really good at when they quit on the coach, they totally quit on the coach. Auburn still has the emotion of those last 2 games that sometimes pulls them through.
Saying LSU doesn't get up for the boot.
Yeah, I'm saying that LSU, the boot in the A&M game, as much as LSU kind of won. And now the A&M game this year might actually, if both teams are invested, it might have some real fire to it.
They got that little AD situation going on over there.
Yeah, they got a lot going on there between those two. So that could get heated. But, yeah, I mean, those 2 rivalries for Auburn are such that it's kind of hard to quit. They're so the Georgia rivalry, the Alabama rivalry are so emotional. For LSU, when they throw in the towel, they really throw it in.
It's pretty breathtaking to watch too. Like there's nothing like watching NFL talent just quit and then get beat by inferior teams by like multiple touchdowns. It's one of those things that I just enjoy watching.
Does this site, what does it think of LSU?
This site has LSU back to A&M. They have them at 13. They have LSU at 10.
Okay, so they like them.
They
These
like
are
them
national
enough.
rankings is what you're giving us, by the way.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. These are out of nationwide.
Gotcha. New Mexico State 20, whatever. The more interesting thing there will be attendance, not score. And then
especially if okay, let's say they lose at Memphis, that they beat Arkansas 1-2. I think what's fascinating, Neil, I know you mentioned the first two games is kind of like going to determine how the season goes. And I do think you're right. I think if they go 0-2, like it's disaster. If they go 2-0, like they've positioned themselves to have a meaningful football season. I think that Cal game, though, could be a real swing game in the negative direction.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I said this on the message board this morning when people were like, well, there's no way. I'm like, look, you can paint a disaster scenario that is not unrealistic. It's not hard to get there, as we're proving right now. Now, I think on the flip side, you can paint a pretty realistic, optimistic scenario where they go to Memphis, and Memphis isn't as good as the hype, and Ole Miss gets a win, and then they come home, and they beat Arkansas, and you beat Southeastern Louisiana, and maybe you lose one of those games. Maybe you start 3-1. You go take your beating at Alabama that everybody else takes, and then you come home and beat Vanderbilt. Well, if you're 4-2 at the turn,
sure,
you got a chance because now you're playing with a little more confidence, and the fans are at least quasi invested, and recruiting's going pretty well, and
you don't know how the rest of the season is going to go for everyone. As we mentioned, Auburn could quit, LSU could wind up quitting on Orgeron. Like, you don't know how the season can go, but you're right. Like, you have to get to that point.
New Mexico State's a gimme. There's 5, so you just got to win 1, and so. But yeah, listen, there's no doubt. I mean, we can do this, and people can say you're being negative. We're not being negative. You can absolutely project a loss to Memphis, say even a win over Arkansas, a win over Southeastern Louisiana, and then a loss to Cal. Well, now you're 2-2, and you go to Alabama, and you take your beating, and you come home, and all of a sudden the Vanderbilt game it's absolute do or die, and I don't know how many people are there at that point, and it gets iffy. I mean, that thing gets difficult if you tailspin there. Well, then you talk about the rest of the season, and you get Auburn, and you get Missouri, and you get A&M, and you get LSU, and the losses pile up, and what's left? So, Chase and I have talked about this, and we've talked about it with you. Tell me what they are at the end of the day on September. What is that? The 28th, 29th?
Cal game.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Yes, I believe that's correct.
Tell me what they are at the end of that day, and I'll paint you a real realistic scenario of what it looks like.
Last two, the rivalry.
Well,
games.
no, I mean look at it this way, guys. To Neil's point. All right, let's say that Arkansas line. Let's say it's a touchdown. I mean, okay, you look at it. In their first 9 games, they have one game that they are for sure going to win. Other than that, they have a game in which they have a 48% chance implied odds of winning, and then as a 6-point favorite, probably something like a 60% chance of winning.
That's fair.
So, I mean, you have. I'm not saying they 1-8. They're going to go 1-8. But if you don't think that is outside the realm of possibility, then, oh boy, you could have a long fall.
It's one of my mailbag questions was, do you think 8-4 is possible? And anything's possible, but I mean, getting that team with that schedule to 8-4, well, you got to really be putting on the red and blue glasses. I mean, look, I think State's going to be a disappointment.
Correct. More on that later. Yeah.
And by the end of the season, there could be real issues there. I don't think he's a good fit there, and I think by the end of this season that might be readily apparent. But there just aren't that many. I mean, look, Ole Miss is not going to Alabama and winning. Ole Miss is not going to Auburn and winning. Realistically, Ole Miss is not beating LSU. I mean, there are games this particular season that are just not winnable. And when you have those kind of games on your schedule, it means that the margin for error in the other games is virtually non-existent if the goal is 6-6 into a bowl game. And anything better than 6-6, and it It is one amazing coaching job. That being said, I do think especially on the defensive side of the ball, I should say, that the coaching is going to make a tangible difference. I do think they will be significantly better coached on defense, which is going to help them. How much? I don't know, but I think you'll
right. That is, and to me, that's the biggest question with Ole Miss, because I do agree with you. Like, I do think like if there are enough players on the defensive end that if you can figure out a scheme that gets them in good positions to make more plays, like I can buy that. But my bigger question is, like, I don't know how much that matters in these games that we're talking about. Like,
because you have one, maybe two proven SEC linebackers on your roster. That's hard. They're counting on a lot of new people on defense. You're counting on Lakia Henry to step in as a JUCO transfer and be impactful immediately.
Same with Sam Williams.
Yep, exactly. You're counting on Sam Williams. You're counting on a handful of JUCO guys in your secondary to not be impactful, because I think there's a decent chance, a real good chance, in fact, that Henry and Williams and some of those guys in the back are impactful. But there's a difference in the word impactful and impactful immediately. JUCO guys typically are not impactful immediately. There's a transition. Ole Miss, in this scenario where Ole Miss gets wins early in the season, they don't have room for that. They have to have those guys be impactful right off the bus, if you will. I mean, immediately impactful. That's a lot to ask.
To make sure we get through these, LSU, the final home game of the season, minus 14.8 for the Tigers.
And, I mean, you know, people can get all mad, but, like, that's typically when LSU comes to Oxford, that's typically roughly where we see the line.
Yeah, that number didn't surprise me.
The last one does, however. In Starkville, 20.15, sorry.
Ooh, can I have that right now?
You want Ole Miss plus 20?
I want Ole Miss plus 20.
I do. I don't like State, and I don't mean that from I don't like State. I mean I don't like that team. I don't like that team. I think there's a real chance that number's bad inflated, and frankly, it's the first of the numbers that I've heard and gone, I don't see how they got there. Like, I see how they got there with the Memphis number. I don't agree with it, but I see how they got there. This one, not convinced.
Yeah, I want to. This is one of those ones where I want to sit down with one of these with the people in Vegas. Because, by the way, the Action Network's not the only team in Vegas. Not the only group in Vegas that likes Mississippi State. But I'd like to sit down with them because I just don't understand how you lose 3 first-rounders on a defense. You lose a really productive college quarterback. Yes, he was limited, couldn't throw, but God, he was productive.
He made third down plays, man, with his feet. He just did. He made a lot of plays for them over the last few years. There's just no way around that. And
once they finally figured out, like, okay, he's not going to become Trace McSorley, like, their team made sense. We are a power football team. We've got good backs. We are going to control the football. We're going to kill you on defense, and good luck. Yeah, and, like, that team made sense, but it took them, 7 games to get there.
But that was on Moorhead, not
right. And yes, with the whole point of that being, I don't think Joe Moorhead's that good of a coach.
Podcast is also brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis, so you're getting local underwriting and understands your market's a pretty big deal, as well as a leader in condo financing in Oxford. So ask Jason about the float down option, which allows you to lock in the current rate, but if rates go down before you close, you get that lower rate. 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
The 2019 youth soccer season is just around the corner. Registration has started for the 2019 fall season in the Oxford Park Commission and will continue through July the 7th. Leagues are open for birth years 2015 to 2004, This year's season opener will be August the 19th. Cost to take part is just $50 per player. All of the games are played at FNC Park, so visit them online at oxfordparkcommission.com for more details. The podcast is also brought to you by my friend Harry Alexander with Remax Legacy Realty. Harry is a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford Downtown Square, conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to about 2,400 square feet. The model home is available for you to look at. It's at 215 Williams Street. Get in touch with Harry and look at the model. You can get more information about this great new development and all the different wonderful layouts and impeccable finishes that are available for you. It's SavannahSquareOxford.com, or you can get in touch with Harry by call or text at 662-801-5621. Podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy that you heard about Grenada Nissan on the podcast or at rebelgrove.com, or preferably both. And you will get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. I just don't think he fits there. And I think that's going to become obvious on the roster. They've already got some locker room issues, hints at it with the quarterback thing that the kids on that roster, they think the Thompson kids earn the right to be the quarterback. And then they bring in a JUCO transfer, a grad transfer to come in and sort of do it. And
right, a guy that it was his turn to play at Penn State, and Penn State goes, we're good.
Yeah, so they bring him down, and look, it kind of worked when LSU did it, but
did it?
But there wasn't.
I'm sick of the whole Burrows is good thing.
No, but here's my point. There was nobody at LSU who, in the eyes of the players, had earned the right. Like the kid.
Correct.
From Ocean Springs. I can't think of his name right now, or Gulfport, or wherever he was from. He hadn't played yet either, so he hadn't earned it. In the eyes of
Miles Brennan.
Brennan. Thank you.
Whoo, boy, that kid's coach is coming after you, man. Him and all his 38 wristbands that he wore.
But in the eyes of the locker room in Mississippi State, Thompson's earned the right to be the quarterback.
That's a very fair point. And I think, if they get off to a hot start, I don't think it's going to matter because I think winning conquers everything.
It does.
But I do think that is setting up to be get your popcorn ready.
I do too. I think they're one of the real interesting storylines to go south.
It's fascinating. It's what other do we have any other lines other than Memphis, or is that the only actually line we have yet that you can bet on?
There was an early A&M line that was roughly about the same. It was like 14 maybe, and then I think the early state line was 17.5.
Okay. Wow, that's still huge.
That's a big line.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying that is one of the things that I want to discuss with Vegas people, because I want to show them the roster and say, what am I missing?
Right.
And I don't think State's a bad football team. I do think they still have more talent than Ole Miss, but if you're giving me 20.5,
I'll take them.
What is the betting line I could get right now on Memphis? Is it still 6.5? Is it 7? Is it
7
roughly
right now?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Half point either way.
Yeah, it's 6.5 or 7.
I wouldn't touch that because there's too many unknowns.
I mean, yes, that's never stopped me from betting.
It's not what I said. I wouldn't touch that. I would bet it with your money and not with mine.
All NBA draft today, Jeffrey? Is that the plan?
That seems like it, man. It helps when you got the number 2 pick, and there's some varying opinions on the trade yesterday. I don't know how you can do a whole lot better than that, man. You got essentially at the end of the day, you got 3 first-round picks. You structured one of those picks to where you've set yourself up where the most likely situation is you get a first-round draft pick in the double draft. I don't really, and you created a ton of cap space for yourselves so that you can take on some more bad contracts and get more draft assets. And then on top of that, I love the fact that it signified that this front office understands that in Memphis you can't treat the draft as some type of chip to delay the inevitable. They understand that the draft is vital to the sustainability and to the success of a team like Memphis. And
I thought it was very important for Memphis to turn the page publicly, to turn the page not only symbolically, but to actually turn the page before you go draft Ja Morant tonight. And they did, and they got assets. I'm sure.
And now you control. Listen, I know technically Utah's got to make that pick, but I would love to see the reaction if Utah goes rogue on that.
What do you mean?
At 23, technically, because the trade isn't official, so Utah's going to make the draft pick tonight at 23.
Yeah.
But the Grizzlies are making the pick at 23. So you control 23. You don't have to get somebody else's draft pick. Like, to me, I don't understand, because there are smart people out there like Matt Moore, Russillo. Like, I don't understand what their objection is.
I thought it was a great trade for both teams. It makes Utah a contender.
Right. I think Utah needed like you saw in the playoffs that their inability to create at the point guard position that just it made them a completely different team. Yes, and got embarrassed.
Yeah.
And now the West is wide open, so I think that was a good move for them to go all in. And yeah, like if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to give up somebody, but they didn't give up anything of their core.
No, now Memphis gets to build around Morant and Jackson. They're going to take their licks. They're going to get beat up next season. They're not going to be good, and that's okay. But I still think you can get people to come to the games going, okay, these guys, these are growing pains. Memphis. If I'm a Memphis Grizzlies PR guy, I'm pointing out, hey, year one of Durant and Westbrook when they were in Oklahoma City together in that first year, that they lost a lot of games. Well, look what happened. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. And then you're going to get high picks the next few seasons.
Yeah.
You got to.
They might lose. For instance, they could easily lose 10 more games than they lost last year. I'm infinitely more interested in watching this basketball team than I was last year's team,
they're
or even the year before.
Much more watchable than they were last year, and they won't be anywhere near as quote good end quote. But they were the Gasol Conley thing was over. And now you turn the page and you have these two young guys you can build around, and you know that in all likelihood that's not the last of the guys that you're going to be able to bring in there. And if you're a franchise, and this was your point, and you're exactly right. If you're a franchise like Memphis, you can't count on free agency. You've got to win with the draft, and now they put themselves in position where they're going to have draft assets.
Yeah,
right. And now, like that's the other thing is, well, what are you going to do with cap space if you're Memphis? Well, yes, maybe you're not signing all of the free agents. But guess what? If you got cap space, you can take on those contracts and give yourself more assets. Like, it just drives me insane that, that I don't like when people that I respect just have dumb takes, and it's not just for the sake of a talk show. It's like because I just feel like I'm just banging my head against the wall.
Jeffrey, have a good day.
We forgot.
What?
Do y'all keep a small credit card holder full of powdered sugar in your car too?
I was going to get to that when you got off, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
Fill me in. I'm unaware.
Robert got arrested.
Oh, I did hear about that.
He had a substance that resembled cocaine in his car. However, they chose not to test it.
Yeah, there's no need for that. Yeah, we're good.
Helps to play in the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really see another reason. It just said chose not to test it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of hot takes, Neil, you ready for one?
Yeah.
You know what I think the irony of the whole 2013 class, or whatever, the big three, if you will?
Yeah.
The guy that's probably, like the foxhole guy, probably overall the best guy, is actually Laramie.
Oh, there's no doubt.
I think that's true.
There's no question about it. Of the three, he's the one who's easily mentally the strongest, is the most loyal.
He's the one that you would. He's the one that if you have the choice of the three to watch your two daughters that for a weekend, Laramie is the one that you don't bat an eye and you pick.
Oh no doubt. Not even close.
Well, he's also the only one that ever comes back around. I mean, he's going to be the only one anybody really knows or remembers in 10 years.
Don't you think that's ironic, though?
Well, I mean, it is given all the crap, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, because everyone painted.
Well, no. I'm not even saying forget all the crap, the draft night crap. I think it's ironic in terms of perception.
Yeah, Ole Miss treated Laquan as if he was kind of the ambassador for that class, the ambassador for that team in many ways. And it turns out that he wasn't. Robert was always kind of entertaining, and we'll never know what could have possibly been had his brother not been there with him. But at some point, by the way, I don't think it's fair to blame Denzel for all of Robert's problems.
No, I mean, you are in charge of your own actions.
Yeah, at some point, it's on Robert.
I completely agree.
And then Laramie, a lot of Laramie's issues were Hugh Freeze's fault. I mean, quite frankly.
Oh, you don't say.
I mean, a lot of that stuff could have easily been avoided if just somebody would have been able to get through to Freeze to say, shut up.
No, but that's the thing, man. He was brilliant. He's brilliant. All his ideas are super smart, and people that can't recognize like his policies and his decisions, forget football. If they can't figure out that what he did helped bring down that program, I feel sorry for you.
I was, by the way, letting you know, because you'd asked about it, I am still working on the eulogy that we're going to do for your staged funeral. Okay. There's a couple of lines in there that I don't have exactly the way I want them. I'm working on them.
How long do you think he's at Liberty, Jeffrey?
See, this is so weird. So their win total's 5. And, again, I'm a man of honor and integrity, so I can't take the over just out of principle. But I do think he's a guy that can inject some life immediately into a program. I just don't think he's ever – if you look at it, he's capable of always having a run wherever he goes, and the problem is he's never going to be able to sustain anything. So you could tell me – I guess this would be a better way to phrase it. Does he ever get a better head coaching job than Liberty?
I'm going to say yes.
Neil? Because I'm leaning no.
I think so. If you made me bet, I'd say yes. But when the people do the whole, let's say Auburn goes to hell in a handbasket.
Sure.
Auburn's not hiring Hugh Freeze.
They're not in 2019, and I'm not saying Auburn, but if he does and he makes that program at Liberty win 8-9 games or whatever, I don't know what the standard is at Liberty, but whatever. People just want to win. More time's going to pass. News cycles are so short. In 2021, somebody's going to hire him.
You say that, man. Art Briles ain't coaching. Rick Pitino ain't coaching.
Not the same thing.
It is, Neil.
No,
Chase, it is. Because if he gets an SEC job, all of a sudden it's going to come out that he has nearly 1,000 phone calls to hookers over a 5 to 6 year period.
But who says he can't coach in the ACC where nobody gives a crap? Or
see, I think if you told me that he gets like the Kansas State job, a job like that, he gets the Arizona State job, those kinds of jobs, okay, I'm in. If you're telling me he's coaching in the SEC, I'm out.
Yeah, I don't think he's replacing Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee, but I just think somebody hires him.
Yeah,
maybe it's a train wreck, but I think they hire him.
See, I think y'all are overlooking. I think everyone does everyone just wants a winner. College athletics is so risk averse.
Yeah, look at how many schools are not selling beer in the stadium because of the way it would look.
Well, and more importantly, let's get real. He did not have an offensive coordinator offer. He was calling people that are friendly to him in the media and telling them, I'm up for the so-and-so job at Tennessee. I'm up for this. When really he was interviewing for analyst roles. I'm sick of this whole thing. He couldn't get work, man, in the places he wanted to get work.
Are you going to go to the commitment ceremony or not?
Oh man, I'm just here to win the day. I'm just here to play with for 60 minutes passionately.
We had so many people willing to put up money. We really missed the opportunity to send Jeffrey to that thing in Destin or wherever it was for the week and just do live shows down there after every convention thing.
I told you I'm not rich and you couldn't pay me enough.
I seriously told Jeffrey, I was like $5,000. He's like, no. I was like, okay.
That would be the funniest thing.
No, because that $5,000 would go to the therapy that I would need right after it.
The funniest bet we could do would be the loser has to go to to Liberty's home finale, decked out in Liberty gear, vocally cheering for the Flames at a Hugh Freeze coach game.
All right, I can neither confirm nor deny this story that I was told from the Spring Creek member guest.
Oh, God.
But I'm going to tell it anyway. So, Hugh still regularly plays at Spring Creek, by the way. Hugh was at the Spring Creek member guest as a guest, and on Thursday of the tournament, this is before the official shootout, there was allegedly another mini shootout for winners that day. And of course, Hugh, he likes to win the day, so he's in it. The way that Spring Creek's 18th hole sets up is their clubhouse kind of creates a really cool amphitheater, I don't know, 100 feet or so away from the green. And there's this really nice deck that overlooks the 18th green. And Freeze and his partner are coming up 18. And some gentlemen, I'm sure, were imbibing, as tends to happen during a member guest. He goes, "Hey, anybody know what Liberty's mascot is anyway?" And someone from the rafters just shouts out, "A burner phone!" Right in earshot for Hugh to hear. He's made mistakes. He caused pain. Oh. Hold on. Hang on. I want to. Let's see.
Yeah.
Index. I forgot I can use this. Hang on. Gianna and Jeffrey.
What are we doing?
We are doing this. Amen. Thank you, Hugh.
Okay.
Wait, no, can you hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
Okay. How about that?
The Son of God, Jesus Christ, is the only one I've ever met that can handle my junk.
Amen, Hugh.
Okay, I got that one.
Amen.
That's on your board?
Yeah.
Okay, good. On that, appreciate it, bud. We'll talk to you. Thanks to Jeffrey for giving us an extended amount of time on today's show. Covered a lot there, including a few things there at the end I was not exactly anticipating. So appreciate him. Good stuff there from a football standpoint. Anything to pass the days here during the summer. Is it we'll slowly eke toward media day that has very little value in the middle of July, and then fall camp will start somewhere around the first couple days of August, and then the season around the 1st of September. So we'll get there eventually. We'll talk to you in the meantime pretty much every day, other than a few breaks along the way this summer. Neil mentioned his mailbag is up. There's recruiting. There's much more there at Rebel Grove, and we're coming. Yeah,
Chase.
Yep.
In the event that anyone was deeply offended by any of Jeffrey's takes, consider them the crap take of the day. Everyone loves their pets. No one loves stepping in their pet's stuff. But scoopers will go into your backyard, your apartment complex, or condominium and pick up what no one really wants to pick up. They'll do it for $10 a cleaning. They'll clean up your yard. They'll do it on your schedule, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or a one-time service. No contracts required. You can cancel at any time. If you have multiple dogs, it's just $2 for each additional dog. So if you own a home, a condo, or an apartment complex in Oxford, and you'd like to deal with a lot less crap, call Scoopers at 662-506-2754. or send them an email at scoopers.oxfordpetwaste@gmail.com to get your cleanings scheduled today.
So head on over to Rebel Grove, participate in the message board, read the content, and more. And we'll be back. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.